Hi Capricorn, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for August 2023. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm going to give you a rundown of what the planets are doing this month in August so that you get a sense of how the planets interact with each other, what energy they create amongst themselves, and how that's going to influence you specifically. So I'm going to look at the kind of positive influences the planets create and also some of the negatives. The idea behind these horoscopes is that you can then make the most of the positives and avoid some of the negatives. So Capricorn, the first thing that's significant this month is that we have Venus, the planet of love and beauty, that's in retrograde. It's been in retrograde from the 22nd of July and it stays in retrograde until the 3rd of September. So with retrogrades, I look at the personal planets, Mercury, Venus and Mars, and a retrograde is when a planet appears to go backwards. So it doesn't go on its usual path, it slows down, it stations, and then it appears to go back until it moves forward again. And because Venus is a personal planet, it affects all of the signs personally. And because it's the planet of love and beauty, the main thing about a Venus retrograde is not to launch into a new romantic relationship or a new business or any of those things that are governed by the love planet, right? Because it appears to go backwards and the perception around things is often a little bit off, or clarity is somewhat stifled. Venus is at 26 degrees in Leo in your 8th house. So the thing that I feel the way this could manifest itself in your life is that if you've got dealings with any institutions, groups of people, communities, any kind of organization where it's you versus a bunch of people, right? Any kind of conflict that happens there, you want a certain letter from someone you work with and they refuse to give it, or there are certain rules in the community and you don't agree and you want that ironed out, there could potentially be a lot of conflict around that. So it's the kind of conflict where you're going up against other people in order to make changes that you feel are good and right and justified and that should be made. And the likelihood is that you're going to be met with a lot of resistance simply out of principle. It's not even about the thing that you're trying to implement, whether it's good or bad or whatever. It's just that you may, out of principle, experience that you're being blocked or that there are a lot of challenges in your path. On the 1st of August, going straight into the month here, we start the month with a big event. We've got a full moon in Aquarius happening, and this full moon happens in your 2nd house of money. It's at 4 degrees. The 2nd house is money, it's work, it's physical belongings, it's anything to do with the real world. It's kind of like the suit of pentacles in the tarot. And the moon is the way you feel. So with this full moon, you're going to get lots of great ideas about how to create an income for yourself. So ideas around work and career. You'll also get lots of ideas around how to make things better for yourself and for other people. And at 4 degrees, those ideas are very likely to be good and right and accurate and reliable. So it's interesting that you've got all of these great ideas. And then, for instance, if you take that into the sphere of where a lot of other people are involved, you're not going to be listened to. That's not going to be the instant reaction. It's like, oh, look, there's our local Capricorn. He or she's got something to say. Let's all sit here quietly and listen. I don't see that being the case. So if other people aren't listening to you, I would suggest that you sidestep that entire issue. Use all of these fabulous ideas that you're getting around money and the physical world and how to improve things for the greater good, and that you set off doing those on your own. Now, it's a little bit more complicated because of the Venus retrograde until the 3rd of September. I think it's a good idea to use all of these great ideas and to make plans for the future, but to be very disciplined about planning versus taking action. Because for you, Capricorn, I feel that August is a very good month to gather all of your ideas, to do some brainstorming, and to write it all down and to get it all fleshed out and ready to go. But instead of making it happen immediately, I think whatever you're working on and these ideas, once you've got a good idea of how you can implement those ideas, start with it in September and try and hold back as much as you can in August so that you don't experience all of these unnecessary problems with people in institutions or governments that are just going to say, computer says no, so let's scrap the whole idea. You're far less likely to run into those kind of problems in September. You've got Mercury and Mars, both of those are sitting in Virgo and they're in your 9th house. So that makes you very open to new ideas, you're very teachable, you're very able to assess information and to come up with meaning yourself, but also to be taught. So you're like the ideal student. You're someone who can work through the info and actually assess it and learn it and absorb it, but then you take it the next step, you take it a step further and you say, okay, this is what I've been taught, this is my take on what I've just learned, and this is how I think it could actually function or it could be improved. So those 2 planets in your 9th do make you very teachable and curious. So if you're interested in learning any new life skills or just exposing yourself to a different subject where you haven't got a lot of experience, that'll be very fulfilling and interesting. And also just on a practical level, taking trips and kind of exposing yourself to different places and cultures that you're not familiar with, that's also going to feel very satisfying and interesting. So I'm just thinking, if there are certain things that you've never done by yourself, the big famous one is that people don't like to go to the cinema by themselves. That's like a big no-no if you ask a lot of people. And obviously something much bigger than that then would be going on holiday by yourself. If you've never tried any of those things, please do try them in August. You'll be surprised at how comfortable it feels and how much you can learn for yourself. So that's really, really supportive for you in the first 2 weeks of the month. On the 16th of August, we have a new moon in Leo, and that also happens in your 8th. And I really think that can signify things being quite combustible when it comes to your relationships, especially formal relationships. There could be arguing, there could be a difference of opinion, but also a tendency for you to get quite riled up and to say, well, actually, I am right, so I'm going to argue this into the ground. So you're not likely to give up and to compromise, and that's partly where a lot of this conflict comes from, that the thing is you are right. You do have good ideas that can help. So if you're being confronted with a lot of naysayers who are just saying no out of principle, of course you're going to get annoyed. But that's what I'm warning you about, not to let that frustration and irritation bring you down. Instead, find ways of using your ideas independently where you don't face that resistance. On the 23rd of August, Mercury goes retrograde. So Mercury being the communication planet, in the sign that it rules, Virgo, it's really powerful and it's very good at assessing things. And in fact, on the 23rd, when it goes retrograde, it's at 21 degrees, 2 and 1 is 3, and 3 in numerology is communication. So numerology-wise, it's the same vibration as Mercury in astrology, and it's at the top of your chart next to Mars. So your tendency now to get aggressive or to push back against people and places and things that you feel are nonsensical and which are just blocking your path out of red tape or laziness or whatever it may be. The last week of August, there's a real tendency for you to get angry about that and to really engage in some serious conflict. So if you don't like that, then please do avoid it. And also, I need to say, conflict is a necessary evil. Anger is a necessary evil. If we don't get angry in life, then we just put up with any old thing and we live in it. If we never have conflict with anyone, then we never get to speak our truth or to disagree with anyone, right? So it's a necessary thing that we have. But during this Venus retrograde, I think that you going up against a bunch of people and saying, well, actually all of you are wrong and I'm right, whether you are right or not is irrelevant, because I don't think it's going to affect any change, and I don't think the door for you to progress into that institution is going to open. So I think it's a lot of wasted energy in August if you do engage in a bunch of conflict, and I think you're better off doing it on your own, going off on your own little mission as such. Yeah. On the 28th of August, we've got Uranus going into retrograde. It's in your 5th house. Oh, wow. So guys, wow. Capricorn, I haven't mentioned this to any of the other signs really, which is interesting because, well, it makes sense because Venus, the love planet, is in retrograde. But for you, the problems you have in formal relationships with groups of people, you, out of all of the signs, the only sign of the zodiac, you're not going to have those kind of problems in your romantic life, in your love life. And I'm going to put myself out on a limb here. I'm saying that if you're already in a romantic relationship, you're going to experience a fabulous time in August. It's going to go really well. And even knowing that Venus is in retrograde, and I usually say avoid new relationships, even if you do meet someone new, out of all of the signs of the zodiac, it's likely with Uranus and Jupiter in your 5th that the negative influence of Venus is offset and mitigated in your life, and that there's the potential to really meet a fabulous new romantic partner. But that doesn't really go for any of the other signs. It goes for you guys. So what does that mean? So either you meet another Capricorn and it goes really well, or you meet someone and it seems wonderful for the first month, but then when Venus goes direct and they're influenced by it, that relationship in a month's time may then cool off. So I'm just thinking out loud here. So if you do meet someone amazing and fabulous, great, pursue it and look into it and see how it goes. But don't book the wedding venue at least until September, October, November. And I'm exaggerating, of course. But I'm saying just see how it goes before you commit to it and before you put all your eggs in one basket and say this is it. Because Venus retrograde is a real thing and it can influence other people. But that's really good news. So I think in terms of your family relationships and people who are close to you, you're not going to experience any turbulence or really upheavals. And then finally, on the 30th of August, we've got another full moon. This happens really rarely. And when you have 2 full moons in a month, it's called a blue moon. This blue moon is also a supermoon and it's going to be a lot closer to the Earth than the moon usually is. So it appears much larger and it has a much stronger influence on us down here as residents of planet Earth. And this full moon is going to happen in Pisces and it's in your 3rd house of communication. It's next to Saturn and Neptune. So this is really interesting because you've been very good at acquiring new information and learning the whole month and going on trips and discovering things that way. Now at the end of the month, it's very easy for you to have spiritual breakthroughs and to learn from the higher realms as such. So if you have a spiritual practice, a meditation practice, anything like that, engage with that at the end of the month, 29th, 30th and 31st of August. You'll get a lot of useful information which will guide you then moving forward into September and into the rest of the year. So it looks like a great and very interesting month for you guys. I hope that gives you an idea of what you'll be working with. If you'd like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on book your reading to order your personal reading with me. And if you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. Please hit subscribe and share the video online. Have a fabulous August and I'll speak to you soon.